everyone, this is Nate with another Backcountry beer review. Today I'm on the highest point in the Caja del Rio Plateau, and despite it being the highest point, it actually doesn't have a real name. It's just referred to as point 7400 or something like that. And it was not that hard to get to. It was maybe 3/4 of a mile hike, but really the hardest part was the fact that it took me 45 minutes to get here, which is funny given that it's maybe 10 miles crow's flight from Santa Fe. The beer I'm reviewing today is by Rowley Farmhouse Ales in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and it's their Germophile Berliner style Weiss beer. So I'm not too familiar with Rowley. I went there about a month ago, and I've been there twice since. I actually think their beer is really good, but nevertheless, I haven't had that much of it. But they're really gaining popularity because in 2019, they actually won the award at the Great American Beer Festival for Best Small Brew Pub. So I'm going to read the back of the can. It says, Germophile celebrates our love for souring bacteria, specifically lactobacillus in this case. This is our core Berlin-style Weiss beer, and is brewed with a 50-50 blend of continental Pilsner malt and malted white wheat, and is soured with lactobacillus. We then finish the beer with Theory's yeast, resulting in a dry and tart refreshing beer. So this beer actually won the 2018 Great American Beer Festival silver medal in Berliner-style Weiss beers. So you know that it's going to be actually a really good beer. Now, an interesting thing about Berliner-style Weiss beers before I open this bad boy up, I just found out that Berliner Weiss beer and Berlin Weiss beer are actually protected terms, much in the way that champagne is a protected term or Scotch is a protected term. So if it's not made in Berlin, they can't actually call it a Berliner Weiss beer or a Berlin Weiss beer. And that's why they refer to it as Berliner style Weiss beer. And you'll see other styles actually refer to it as something like Berlin style or Berliner Weiss beer style ale. So just an interesting fact for you before we open this guy up. It is time for a sip. I have to admit, I really love sour beers, and this one is really good. Onto the flavor, it starts off pretty tart. It is a sour beer, and if I had to assign that tartness to a flavor, I would definitely say lemon juice. In particular, it reminds me of a Limonada San Pellegrino, but obviously a lot drier. This is not very sweet. And on top of that, I'm getting some other more complex notes. Given that this is a yeast-forward beer, I do expect it to be pretty complex, and well, sure enough it is. I'm getting a lot of actually banana that's going along with the lemon. And then, in addition to that, I'm getting this floral white flower note, kind of like honeysuckle flower. It's just this, floralness that's sort of sweet, and it's very delicious. Moving on to the middle third, that lemon flavor sort of mellows out, and actually what I'm getting more in the foreground is kind of a honey note. And obviously I said, this is not a sweet beer, but nevertheless, honey has a flavor, and that's what I'm getting in this middle third, is honey with actually a touch of vanilla. In addition to that, it is still sour, of course, it is still tart, but because the beer is not sweet again, but because these sweet flavors are coming out, the lemon note, I think, sort of evolves into something tamer. Maybe like a Meyer lemon, and I know it's sometimes associated with off flavor, so I don't want to give the impression that it's an off flavor. Maybe something like green apple, right? Something that's a little sweeter, but still quite tart. And another thing I'm getting is just a lot of minerality. Something that you would expect from like a tart white wine is really coming through in this beer. And it's really exciting. I have to admit, when I was trying this at home, I did break out the wine wheel because I was just getting so many complex flavors, and having that wine wheel just seemed more appropriate than my typical beer notes. I'm also, I noticed this with the burial beer that I did earlier, the Surf Wax, but I've noticed with these beers that have mixes between barley and wheat in them, I get this, the best way I could describe it is malted wheat, I guess like a white bread note, that this creamy, malty richness that's not like barley. Barley is much more syrupy, much more toffee, molasses-like, versus the wheat beer, it's Wonder Bread, basically, but it comes through in this beer, and it came through in the burial beer, and this is made with 50-50 wheat and barley. So I have to imagine at this point, it's not my mind playing tricks on me, that it is in fact an artifact of the wheat being in the beer. And in the final third, I would say a lot of these flavors sort of just slowly die away, leaving you with kind of the puckering tartness that now again in the final third really comes across like lemon again. Not so much, because I'm not really getting those sweet-like notes, the honeysuckle, the vanilla. I'm not really getting that in the final third. It really is just the tartness of the lemon type flavor coming through. All in all, this beer is really delicious. I really need to get out to Rowley more, and I am super happy to have tasted this beer and to have shared it with you guys. So cheers, and have a backcountry beer for me. Apologize, in my last few videos the wind noise has been a little rough. I keep working on technical solutions. It's a very hard problem to fix. It's a blessing and a curse of filming in the outdoors, and it is really the windy season in New Mexico. So hopefully with the angles I've chosen, that doesn't come through so much. Anyway, time for a sip.